I am live, hopefully. I've come on just a few seconds earlier today. So if anyone has got any questions for the next 10 seconds, you can more than welcome to type. But what I normally do is just like to sort of get on and discuss who we are, who I am, what we're doing, and obviously what these lives are. So I will crack on. For those that don't know who I am, my name's James. I'm the founder of Rupert, your 24/7 social media assistant on a mission, which is to help brands extract opportunity hiding in plain sight when it comes to comments, especially across your media channels, and more so when you're running paid media. And Rupert helps you extract that value. And every week I give a quick 10 minutes of worth of ideas and tips on how brands can extract that value for free without using a platform such as Rupert. Because I truly believe if you want to grow your brand, especially in 2025 and beyond, you need to engage with your community and your customers and your prospects more, which will ultimately give you better conversion rates and a better lifetime value for a customer. Hopefully you can all see me today. Actually, I'm in the office and I'm in some little dark podcast room. The light's not working, so I've got my camera phone light strobing on me. So hopefully you can see me all okay. It's not too dark. But today we're going to be discussing the role of automation in scaling socials, automating processes to save time, reduce costs, and ultimately enhance productivity. During this presentation, if you have got any questions while I'm talking away, type them in. They will actually come up on the screen now, so you don't have to wait at the end. If you have any questions, we'll think about a question while I'm talking and we're going through a particular slide. Put it on and type it in, and then we can discuss it at the end. Every week I like to start with a stat which some people probably aren't more aware of, and this one is 71% of shoppers who get good help from a company on social media would tell their friends to shop there too. Again, especially those that are selling online, e-commerce brands, it is so important to engage with your community because people will be tagging their friends in. And I've got a really good example of that actually today, and this is the range. So every Wednesday morning before we do the live, I go online and I try and find free brands who have been either missing a trick or actually they were doing a really good job when it comes to actually communicating and responding to comments. And this one is the range, where actually a good example of there, loads of people are tagging their friends in. Now the range themselves haven't actually gone back to a lot of these comments, which is really frustrating because they've got a sale on, which is great. People are tagging their friends in. The range should be reaching back out to these people and saying, hey, come into the store. Obviously, if it's an e-commerce play, send them to particular product URLs. But again, this is a really good example of they're doing a massive sale. They've put paid media behind it. People are tagging in their friends, which is what we as brands want them to do. And then the brand isn't doing anything about it. And again, if you look at that 71%, that stat we've just looked at, here is a prime example of someone this morning who I found who is not doing it. And again, it's really, really irritating and frustrating because these are free conversions just sat there that the range are currently missing out on. But I've got another two examples coming later on. So how automation can impact your business. So every week I'll put these into three. And the first one is increased efficiency and time saving. So automation can help us handle those more repetitive tasks, especially when it comes to social media. So things like scheduling, posting, and actually just general monitoring of our socials. And what this is going to do is this is going to free up time for your team or you as a brand owner potentially to focus on the task which I would class a more commercially what's the word? How can I get this out? They're going to give you, it's going to give you more time to work strategically on the business, which is obviously going to help the business more commercially rather than just doing the mundane tasks. So things like content creation, community building, analyzing performance if it's paid media, that can lead to more meaningfully engagement and actually output for you as a brand rather than just doing the do. So again, increased time, increased efficiency and time saving. The second one is cost reduction and scalability. So we know that businesses can reduce the need for larger teams. And actually, when you look at some of the large brands out there that are running socials, I know one brand who's got one social media person and it's a multinational brand and there's one girl running it. Now they are a client of Rupert, but it's amazing when I first engaged with them, actually how few people they had when it came to their social media team. And the reason why they've been able to do it with just one, which even baffles me now, is because they use a lot of different micro apps to manage their social. So Rupert for comment management, they use other tools for posting and other tools to help performance. But again, it's going to reduce your need for staff day to day on your socials, because again, operationally, we can use tools to be able to scale without the need for more boots on the ground. The third one is enhanced consistency and performance. Now, the hardest thing when it comes to social media is consistency. Unfortunately, we as brands now, we need to be consistent with how often we're posting. Although we do see, there's different ways people say. Some people say you don't need to post a lot, but it needs to be better quality. Some people say actually you need more content to be pushed out. In my opinion, only based on the data that I've seen over the last 5 years, is you need to push out content. Yes, it needs to be of a certain quality. Of course you do. Of course it does. It can't be, really naff. But you need to put out content. All the platforms now are sort of TikTokifying themselves, and it's all about volume. You could put out one post a month, and it may never get past 400 views. You put out 20 a day, one is going to hit at some point. So again, it's going to actually, using automation can actually help you with that consistency, which unfortunately, like I said, the platforms do want. But ultimately, the more consistent you are, you're going to get better performing content. And ultimately, if you get better performing content, you are going to get increased ROI from your social, whether that be paid or organic. Because from a paid perspective, the platforms will reduce your CPMs, which is great because it's going to reduce your cost per lead and hopefully then cost per acquisition. From an organic perspective, you're going to get something which I call free reach. They're going to push out your content more readily rather than, because it's actually keeping people and bringing people back onto the platform. So really, really simple concept there. Another brand this morning who I found, again, who aren't using automation clearly, is Monday.com. And again, these guys are using Facebook on this occasion to acquire new customers. And again, when you look at these types of comments, which unfortunately we as brands are going to get on socials because it's just the nature of the beast, we're going to get some negatives. When you look at this, all of these are 2 and 3 weeks old, yet they're paying to distribute this message to their audience. And again, I've collared it this morning. Obviously, I'm looking at the comments for this presentation. But how many other people has that influenced? And again, using automation can stop this. Using a platform like Rupert, or even potentially using the back end of Facebook, although this is quite difficult to stop comments of this nature unless you're using a platform like Rupert. But again, how many other people has this influence rather than just me this morning? And I think this is something we've got to really, really be careful of when we're running paid social, is that it's not just let it run in the background. Yes, we've got to always optimize. Again, that's from a paid perspective performance. But again, also from the comment side, what comments are you receiving on that? And actually, are they going to impact who else you're sending and distributing this particular ad to? Too many brands, again, Monday being an example of there, are definitely missing a trick there. So strategies for effective comment management when we're talking about automations. Again, I always put this into 3. So the first one is, and all of these you can do for free. You don't need to use a platform. This is all something you can do yourselves internally. So the first one is maintain a personal touch. It seems really, really simple. But there's nothing worse than going onto a profile and you've made a comment or you're asking a question about a particular product or service and you get a typical copy and paste response. And we all see them and we understand it's a time constraint. I get it. But actually, if you're going back with a response that is clearly personal to that particular customer inquiry, it's going to retain authenticity in you and your brand, but it's going to strengthen your relationship with that particular consumer, which means in the long run, they're going to spend more money with you. And it doesn't take a lot. It just means responding to them and think about a response that you're doing. Obviously, we can use AI for this. Of course we can, which is going to help. But it's got to be personal still. The copy and paste job, although I do say, look, if it's better than nothing, but if you really want to get the most out of your comments, the most out of your community and the people who engage with you, you've got to maintain a personal touch. And we can all do that. That's not something that, we need to sign off for from senior staff. We can do that all within our roles. The second one, is prioritize data security. So this one's a bit of a curveball, but I've seen this, unfortunately, in my tenure in this world. I've seen this happen so often, which is many automation tools require access to social accounts. Okay, we all know that, and you will need certain permissions. What we typically find though, and you'll know this, especially if you're running paid media, is that a lot of people in the business don't have the correct permissions, or they don't have admin rights. It's typically with someone that used to work for the business years ago, and it's never been sorted. I would recommend, whatever you do, is get this sorted as soon as possible. Make sure that people in the business today, hopefully it's the business owner has admin rights, and that all old staff or personnel have been taken off the account if they're no longer to be needed to, purely from a security threat, because the amount of people that I see try and even, like, for example, try to sign in and log into Rupert and they don't have the right permissions, and it's a massive issue, especially if you're running paid media, because again, you'll know what Meta Business Manager's like, and actually trying to get support from them is quite tricky. So just maintain who has admin rights and maintain it for someone in the business, that typically the business owner, and they can obviously give the right access to obviously employees under them. And the third one is consistently optimize. So set up routine audits and of your automation processes to potentially identify gaps if there are some. So it might be to refine, for example, comment management. It might be to landing pages. It might be looking at actually what the goals are and then reverse engineering that, what content has worked. Continuously and consistently optimize. Don't just let it sit and just be running in the background, especially from paid, but organic too. I see so many brands now who are just pushing out content for the sake of it, and no point do they sort of sit back and go, well, actually, what has worked? And if you've put out 10 pieces of content this week, and for the last 4 weeks, one piece of content is consistently performed, well, reverse engineer and do more of that. And that's where automation can help, because automation obviously can push out the content, but we still need us as humans, the brands, to be more strategic and look at that data and go, okay, well, what has and hasn't worked? And again, going into my point earlier, which is that's how automation can help us. It can take away the nitty-gritty, mundane stuff that we need to do, so we can actually optimize the business and how we can move forward. And actually reverse engineering that data is really important. Not enough brands do it, especially organically, because it's just something that we feel we have to do. And yes, we obviously have to put our messages out there, but again, we've got to consistently optimize. We do it on paid, but we don't do it as well on organic. And again, that would be one of my really big tips today, is actually start looking at that content and really start optimizing it. The last brand here with no personal touch, and I'm shocked by these guys, is a brand called School, because School have built a community and they're all about community themselves, and they've put this ad out there, which is very topical at the moment and very on trend. And they've had loads of comments on this. There was tons. There was 48 in total. They added some other ads as well, which had lots of commentary on. Nobody from School has responded. And these are people that obviously know, they feel like they're part of the brand. Hey, good one, guys. If they feel like they're part of it, yet no one's responded. And it's such an example where they could just do a bit of a personal touch on that, on each of these comments. Wouldn't take them too long, yet there's none of it. And this is a brand that absolutely define themselves as community builders, yet they're not doing it themselves, which was, when I saw this, I was a little bit shocked actually, because I was expecting to see all their comments responded to, but unfortunately not on that occasion. So yeah, again, another example of a brand that should be doing it, and hopefully when you're seeing this, you'll go on your socials today, have a quick look at how many comments you've received and go, actually, yeah, maybe I do need to respond to some of these. That'd be one of my takeaways. As always, I try and get this under 50 minutes, so between 10 and 15. We've just under 50 now. So if any questions, please type in. I actually don't know how many people are here. Sometimes there's no people. So someone might be watching our catch up or repeating it. So if you do have any questions, type them in and they'll come up on the screen. In terms of next week, I do these every week at Wednesday at 11 a.m. And it's next week is common mistakes brands make in comment management, avoiding pitfalls that can damage your brand's online reputation. Again, it's a big problem when it comes to brand's online reputation. Again, you've seen some examples there of brands that aren't, I wouldn't say taking it seriously, but they may not even know the comments are there, because unfortunately these platforms aren't amazing at telling you even with a notification, which is really frustrating. But again, that's something we'll be running through next week. But as no one's got any questions, as always, thank you all for listening. And if you do, send me a DM, or if you want to try Rupert.digital. And I'll see you all guys next week. Thank you very much. Take care.